What's the answer? Everybody wants to know the answer. So the answer is 7%. I know, that's what I thought too when it's been like, really? It's only 7%? And we focus so much on what to say and using the words and all that stuff, and only 7% of communication on the words are only 7%, okay? Which means 93% is nonverbal. The impact is 93% nonverbal. Let's do a little demonstration. I want you to have your right arm, just pull your right arm up like that. Just don't poke someone's eye, please. Okay? All right, very good. Everybody has your right arm up? Okay? Okay. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to bring your arm straight to your chin. Interesting. I'll say around 70% brought it to the cheek, though I said bring it to the chin. I tricked you. What does that say? What does that mean? Exactly. The visual cue is what you go after, not the actual words. We didn't listen to the words. You went with what I did, with my action, which says that action speaks louder than words, doesn't it? Okay? So body language is much more important, much more powerful than the words we say. Do it again. All right, go over again. So, what's the communication? What's the percentage for body language? For body language, 93% is nonverbal, which is the body language and the tone of voice together. The body language by itself is 55% of communication, folks. So if you just manage your body language, if you just focus on your body language, you're going to increase your communication by double. Does that make sense? Okay? 38% is your tone of voice, and only 7% are the words. That's not in your workbook, so just take notes of that. Okay, this is a structure we're going to be building upon for the next couple of days. We're building foundation right now as we're going to keep inputting resources. Okay, what questions do you have on this model? Anything is unclear before we go further? Yes, Juan. This is okay for the face-to-face. Okay, that's where the body language is. But if you're on the phone, you're not seeing the body language. We're going to talk about that. Very good one. Very good distinction. Especially email. And email, what's the percentage we're using? 7. How much? 7%, which means what? You're not really getting your message across. That's why there's a lot of misinterpretation. There's a lot of conflict in email. How many of you experienced a lot of conflict in email on misinterpretation, miscommunication? Okay? Now you know why. You're only communicating 7% in your email or your text messages in that matter. That's why it's best option to do what? When there's any conflict or something that you want to elaborate on, or pick face-to-face as a first, is the best. If that's not an option, what do? Pick up the phone and call them. Now you're using 38%. Okay? Very good. And you leave email to the last resort. Okay? Email is supposed to be a tool that we can just send communication across, not argue about a point or share our feelings about a point. Okay? We're going to talk about email later in details. Okay, very good. So now what? Since we know that body language is the most important, let's just talk about body language right now, okay? What is a proper body language? What is not a proper body language, okay? So, with body language, we're going to start all the way from top to bottom, okay? For what we communicate to other people, okay? So, what is the first thing we communicate through from top to bottom? What do we communicate through? Eye contact, okay? We keep hearing about eye contact. It's important. Eye contact is important, especially in our culture in North America. Yes? Okay. Now, I don't know about you folks, but my dad used to tell me that if you're communicating with someone and they're not looking you in the eye, they probably are what? Lying, right? How many of you heard that before? Okay? So, my question to you is this. Don't you think liars know that? So what do they do instead? They stare. At least the good ones, they stare at you when they're lying, right? Okay. So in order for you to kind of be able to keep that in mind, okay, there's a study has shown that when you're communicating, when you're laying eye contact, you want to keep it for 5 seconds. What's the number? 5 seconds. Meaning what? You keep 5 seconds and then you look away. The study says that anything less than 5 seconds of eye contact, you come across as incompetent or you're hiding something. or you're lying pretty much, okay? And anything more than 5 seconds, you come across as a creep, okay? So you want to keep around 5 seconds. Now the question is, would that apply if you're the speaker or you're the listener? Which one do you think? You're speaker, right? Because if you're the listener and you are looking away, how that could be misinterpreted? Then you're not paying attention, you're not interested. Okay? Can everybody see that? Okay? So if you're the speaker, you maintain eye contact for 5 seconds. Obviously, you're not going to like time it, but you kind of like average it, right? And then you gather your thoughts. And when you gather your thoughts, you come back. And this happens usually unconsciously. Okay? All right. But if you're the listener, it's important to maintain eye contact with the speaker as long as they're maintaining eye contact with you. Simple. You mirror them. We're going to talk about the distinction called matching and mirroring in a little bit. But for now, you just want to mirror them. Okay? They're maintaining eye contact with you. You maintain eye contact with them. They're looking away. You look away. Why? Because there's cultural differences, folks. Okay? Here in North America, it's good to maintain eye contact. It says, you know, you got to like maintain eye contact so people can trust you. Okay? But in other cultures, it's actually the opposite. If you maintain eye contact with someone, that means if you are disrespectful, you try to dominate them. Let me give you an example. I was in Albuquerque when I first started my career, just like 2.5, 3 years ago. And I was in a seminar, and I noticed people were not getting engaged. So I was doing my thing, and just like having fun, excited, and all that, and just people, they're just like not raising their hand, they're not communicating, they're not looking even, I'm looking at them, they look away. It's like, wow, they don't like me, they don't like, you know, the topic, I'm not doing a good job. I went in my head, okay? So at the next break, I go out, and one of the participants come over, and he's like, you know what, we're really, really enjoying this, right? That rapport exercise is awesome, we're loving it. I was like, really? I kind of didn't get that from everybody else, but thanks for sharing. And he goes, why? He was like, well, people were not engaged, they're looking away. He says, well, listen, 80 to 90% of, you know, the crowd are Navajo Nation, okay? Native Americans. It's part of the culture that they don't maintain eye contact with you, because it's not because they're hiding something or they're lying, it's just because matter of respect, okay? They don't like to be dominated, okay? And they don't want to dominate you either, okay? So you want to keep that in mind, being polite. That's one. For example, Asian culture, the same thing, okay? With Asian culture, okay, some of them, they don't maintain eye contact with you. It's a sign of respect. That's why when they bow, when they said hello, okay, because they're respecting you, they're trusting you that, you know, with their neck. When they bow, it's like they're giving you their neck, that I can trust you with my neck. Does that make sense? Okay? All right, good. So keep that in mind. If someone, you know, a different culture, they're not maintaining eye contact with you, it doesn't mean that they have something to hide. It could be a cultural difference. What questions do you have on eye contact? All right, good. What's the next thing? Yes, John. What's that? Where to look? Okay. Okay, very good, John. So if you are in a crowd like this, so I know, as I said before, I was an introvert, right? And I had to really work on, you know, being able to speak in public. And maintaining eye contact with people was a challenge for me. So I learned a technique that you can look at the forehead. Where to look at? The forehead. I'm looking at your forehead right now. What do you think I'm looking at? Yeah, you think I'm looking at your eyes, but I'm looking at your forehead. Okay, so that's one if you're communicating in public. Also, if you're communicating in public, you're in a team meeting, like, you know, like Isaac is a manager. So one thing would work best would be you want to start landing and pausing as you're talking to certain people in the crowd. Which people do you pick in your crowd? Very good. And which one would you choose? Exactly, that one that looks like they're open, they're nodding their head, they're smiling, okay? You don't want to be looking at the one that's, it can be depressing, folks, okay? So when I come to my seminars, I choose certain people in the beginning of the seminar, okay? And I get that, you know, some people, they're just having, you know, just haven't woke up yet. It's not because they have anything against the seminar, just not woke up yet. So I just pick the people who are excited to be here, and I start landing this eye contact with them in the morning. And guess what happens? After a while, these people, they start contaminate everybody else. So now other people will start popping like popcorn, okay, throughout the seminar. And everybody becomes excited, okay? So you want to land with the people who are opened up. Why? Because that gives you energy. It feeds you, okay? As a speaker, it would feed you. Does that make sense? Yeah? All right, good. And it's important when you are making a point to pause, okay? Just to pause when you make a certain point, maintain eye contact, and then look away. Okay, but this is not a public speaking seminar, so I'm going to move forward. Next thing would be smile. Okay, what does a smile communicate? Acceptance. Who said that? Okay, acceptance. This is the unanswered question that people have when they first meet someone new. Is, do you like me? The unanswered question is, when you meet someone for the first time, is, do you like me? When you smile, what are you saying to that person? I accept you. At least I accept you, okay? I accept you. And that's what people want. They want to be accepted, okay? We like to be accepted. So when you smile, you're not just communicating to others that I accept you, but you're communicating to yourself. We just did this experiment. When you smile and you look up with your power posing, you can't be depressed in this case because your testosterone is going to go up and your cortisol is going to go down. So when you smile, you're actually changing your own state. Does that make sense? Yeah? All right, good. Next, what are you communicating through? So we're going up, down here. Let's talk about these shoulders. We talked about, when we're sitting right there. So where does the shoulder belong? Straight. What is this communicating? Depressed. That could be an option too. Okay, or what? Or you're just bored, not interested. Okay, that's the shoulders we communicate. So the shoulder has to be straight. Okay. Next, what about we talk about the hands? Okay, where does the hand belong? In your pockets. No, not in your pocket. Where do they belong? Okay, very good. So here's a couple of things. And like technically, if you go to a Toastmaster class, they'll tell you got to have your hands on your side. Okay, this is like the best communication style. You have the best to have your hands on the side. I'm very animated. I feel like restricted if I have my hands on the side. So though I'm consciously aware of that, and what I do is, I communicate using my hand, who has gestures. Okay, so studies have shown that when you're communicating, showing your palms, when you show your palms, what is that communicating? When you show your palms, you're open, that you have nothing to hide. That's why politicians communicate a lot with their palms, right? It was a joke, folks. But they do, actually, because they study it, okay? So they communicate with the palms. So try to communicate, if you want to make a point, show your palms. You can either show them this way, you can show them this way. Just make sure you show your palms when you're communicating. Or you can have them right there on your side, okay? Avoid having your hands in your pocket. What about here? What is that communicating when you're having your arms crossed like that? Defensive, standoffish. It's like I'm saying, I'm totally open to the idea. Right? So you're saying one thing, but your body's saying something else. Okay? You're not congruent. Congruency is when your words, your body, and your tone of voice are all aligned for the message with the message that you're sending. That's called congruency. You got to be congruent. Okay? So your hands, you could be cold too. Okay? If you have your hands like that. And if you are cold, you can communicate that. It's like, it's a little bit chilly in here. Anyway, what were you saying is, and you can continue, right? So you communicate to others that, it's kind of cold. Anyway, hands. What about if your hands above your shoulder, what is that communicating when you're having like your hands like that? Aggressive, right? You're being aggressive communicator. Unless you're on a football field, don't have your hands all the way on top, okay? Your hands will belong between your shoulders and your hips, okay? Speaking of hips, having your hands on the hips, what is that communicating? Yeah, it's more like you're disciplining somebody, like I'm bossing you around. What? Condescending in a way, okay? So avoid having your hands here on the hips. I know sometimes it's comfortable, folks. Trust me, I know, okay? And if you want to be generous, you want to get out of yourself and be with others, then just be generous and, look at what you're sending. What's the message you're sending to others, okay? So have your hands on the side. Make sense? Okay, good. What else? Handshake, okay? Handshake, which is part of touching, okay? Let's talk about touching a little bit. Touching, when you touch someone, okay, what does that communicate? What's that? Right. Let's say if you touch somebody on the shoulder. Thank you for pointing that out, Isaac. Okay. So I see one. It's like one. It's gonna get better, man. It's gonna get better. Okay. So what does that communicate? Empathy, right? You get empathy. Okay. And it could it depends on what the context is, but when you touch someone, you are communicating like I care for you, right? How many of you actually see that, right? When you touch someone, it's like I care for you. Like, people like to be touched, and people like to be touched too. Okay. So now the thing is, what could you be risking here at the workplace? How could that be a problem? Sexual harassment. Yes. So studies have shown that when you touch someone between the wrist and the elbow, okay, it's safe. A safe place to touch. Between the wrist and the elbow. Where? Wrist and elbow. That's safe. Unless you are the same gender, then you can touch on the shoulder. It's fine if you touch on the shoulder if it's the same gender. Make sense? Okay? All right, good.